think it's there to be enjoyed. I think the world is here. We're here to enjoy it, you know. But alongside it, we've got to think, what is our deeper journey? When all of this doesn't exist, then what else is there out there?
For me, spirituality is like having faith and believe in something which I see like something greater than myself, like believing in some kind of higher form of energy or believing in God.
And every little thing becomes small, and each of these buildings to me represents, you know, those little impacts that day-to-day life has on us. Spirituality just lifts us up and just makes those little things a bit smaller and a bit easier to handle.
Hello and welcome to the Modern Day Spirituality Podcast by Manav Dharam, a podcast dedicated to those in search of spiritual awareness and insight. We're going to be speaking to many people from different walks of life and understanding where they are on their spiritual journeys. I'm Kavi, and today we're speaking all things spirituality in the 21st century. We have two great guests with us here today. Thank you for coming, Darshna and Konpal.
Thank you for having us.
And if we can kick off with a bit of introduction, Darshna, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so my name's Darshna. I am in my mid-40s. I've travelled down from Yorkshire, which is where I live. Okay. I've got 3 young children, and I'm just really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Great for coming on. Thank you. Konpal?
Hi, my name is Konpal. I'm 36 years old and I'm IT engineer by profession, and I'm married.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah, that's it about me.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for both coming on today. And like we said, we're speaking all things spirituality in the 21st century. So lots to delve into today. So it'll be interesting to see your thoughts and feelings behind this. But I just wanted to kick off giving you both a definition of spirituality that we found from the Oxford Dictionary, which basically says the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to the material and physical things. Lot to dissect there.
Wow, yeah.
But I don't know what your initial thoughts are when you hear that sort of definition. Does that resonate with you? Does that not? Darshna, do you have this?
There's quite a lot to take in there, isn't there? I suppose. What was the first bit? Do you mind just reading it
the
again?
first bit is the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul, as opposed to material or physical things.
And that's the thing that's jumping out, isn't it? It's straight away that quote is going for separating spirituality with materialism within the human realm.
Yeah, and I guess it's that's quite a big topic in itself. I guess, right?
We're going to need more than half an hour.
Exactly. We best pay the podcast guys a bit more. No.
Yeah. So I believe that like spirituality can have like different meaning for different people.
Yeah.
For example, for me, spirituality is like having faith and believe in something which I see like something greater than myself, like believing in some kind of higher form of energy or believing in God. So I feel that I don't really specifically tie it to any religion, but I feel that it's kind of a life experience where you go through your self-discovery and knowing yourself.
Yeah. I guess that's why it's saying concerned with the human spirit or soul, right? That's exactly what you're saying there in that sense. So it's great to understand. I don't know, do you guys have a different thought on what you'd say spirituality is from your perspective? Darshna, you know what I mean? Or no? If you don't, it's fine. If you agree with that definition, it's not a problem. But
I think
or you agree with what Konpal said?
Konpal's defined it really succinctly, haven't you? The only thing I'd add is there's a famous quote, I don't know who it's by, but it says we're all spiritual beings having a human existence rather than the opposite, which is probably what that quote suggests, is that we're human beings having a spiritual existence. And I suppose just lifting from part of what you've just quoted, the physical aspect of being within the 21st century and how that relates back to spirituality. I mean, what do you think the biggest challenge is that's taken us into this 21st century as opposed to like the 20th or the 19th or the 18th? What's the big thing?
Technology.
There you go.
The biggest thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything's there for you. You can just jump up and start listening or understanding something like that within seconds.
And I think this, for me, this is me speaking personally, is the biggest draw that just takes you away. And it almost, the way I describe it is it sucks me into that whole, the physical aspect of life, doesn't it? Where there are brilliant things about technology. You know, we wouldn't be speaking on this podcast right now if it wasn't for technology.
Yeah, of course.
If I want to go to a new place and find what I can go to see around there, I can look on my phone and check. You know, there's a multitude of amazing things about technology, but within that, there's also a whole bunch of drawbacks as well. You know, we've got this hybrid working now, but then people aren't switching off from work, are they? Because they're on their phones or they're accessible 24 hours a day. You know, kids is a whole other topic where they're drawn into technology, and there's a lot of positives, but also a lot of negatives within it. And I think just navigating that part of the 21st century is one of the big things for me that I found really difficult. And that's where spirituality just gives a little bit of grounding and a little bit of support in just coping with those day-to-day things.
So is it almost like you're saying it brings you back to that point where we've defined it there, is about the human soul, the human being itself, and sort of spirituality bringing you back to that level, right? Is that what you're saying?
Essentially, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay,
Got
good
it.
to know. I guess, and Konpal, you touched on this, and we're sort of switching here slightly, but what do you think the difference is, and you spoke about religion, what do you think the difference is between spirituality and religion then? Because spirituality is a big word, right? It's almost like a buzzword that a lot of people use. But then there's religion. So it's like, how do you differentiate? And how do you do you think there's a difference between the two?
Yeah, I definitely think there is a lot of difference between these two terms. I mean, there is kind of similarity in that sense that both the main focus of both of them is on knowing the higher energy or the God, as we say. But I guess religion takes a different turn somewhere, because like I'm a Hindu, so we mostly focus on idol worship.
Sure.
And going to temples, and it's like if you do all those stuff, that means you are basically trying to connect to God. But spirituality teaches you that when you go, you don't need to go outside and look for a way to connect to the higher form of energy. Basically, you can sit at your home, do mindfulness, meditation, and you can simply connect to God. So this is the difference that I see.
Okay, great.
And I think religion has sort of a lot of restrictions in that sense as well. They have set of rules that you need to follow if you are part of that religion.
Sure.
But I think spirituality doesn't have all that boundaries.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Which I find it more like unique, also really useful for the youth, because the main problem I see these days with the youth is that they think that if they will follow spirituality, they will get disconnected from what they're doing at the moment.
Sure.
Which is not the case.
I mean, I guess following on from that, is there then a place for religion in this 21st century we live in? Because we're saying, the spirituality, there's a lot more sort of, it's malleable, I guess we're saying. Is there a place, would you say, in this century for religion?
I suppose Konpal touched on it, didn't she, when you were talking about boundaries. And I guess for a lot of people, life requires boundaries, doesn't it? When you're driving, you know that the boundary is that when there's a red light, you have to stop, because if you don't stop, it's going to be an accident. Okay. And, you know, people, if there is no formal sort of guideline for a lot of people to follow, that can be quite destructive in itself, can't it? So I think it can be, I personally see it as a very man-made thing. You know, people need some form of guidelines, or, you know, that inner voice to say, hey, just check yourself. Is what you're doing okay? Are you working within, you know, good boundaries? And essentially, I think spirituality, it's not confining you to a religion. It's saying, hey, work within the boundaries of being a good human being.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter where you live, where you're from, what your background is, what your upbringing is. Essentially, that spirit connection is, hey, be a good person, you know, and just elevate yourself from the day-to-day reactions of life, you know, and don't let it impact you.
So on that point, good person. How do you define good person? It's a difficult one, right? Because some people will see something as they're doing good, but other people not so much. I mean, from your perspective, how would you say is a good way to have that good person mentality within spirituality in this 21st century?
So for me, the definition is really simple. For being a good human being, I mean, if you're just living the life that you want to live without causing any harm to anyone, or not causing any problems in the society, that's how I consider you as a good human being.
Okay.
No matter what you want to do in your life, how you want to grow, doesn't matter to me.
Okay, good. Would you agree there, Charles? Any sort of...
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think without being able to, you know, define individuals as good human beings, I think having a person to guide you in how to be a good human being is what I find is really important or really essential.
Yeah.
So for me, you know, we're here as part of an organisation called Manav Dharam, where we have a spiritual guru. We have that person to show us the way on how to be a good person, you know. And my experience of being part of this organisation is a lot of those things we've touched on, a lot of those experiences where, you know, you want to not be affected by the physicalities of daily life. Yeah. So there's a post on social media that I'm not happy with. I don't want to respond by being angry. My children aren't listening. We're running around, you know, day-to-day life, and it's stressing me out. Work is really busy. There are life situations which impacts us, you know, on a day-to-day basis. Yep. Technology is always pulling me towards it, saying, come on, you know, you've got to respond to these messages, emails, phone calls. And what I have found being part of a spiritual organisation, it has given me I'm calling it a coping mechanism. I don't know if that's the right word, but it gives me an ability to just elevate myself from these situations. That's part of life. Yep. We all have it, but it doesn't have the impact that perhaps it would on other people, where you then just can't cope with day-to-day life. So if I can just mention an example I heard, which I thought was really relevant. Yep. It's like being on a plane. So when you're on the ground on the plane, all the buildings look really big, okay? They look massive. And as you take off and you head up into the sky, all of these buildings are just disappearing, and every little thing becomes small. And each of these buildings to me represents, you know, those little impacts that day-to-day life has on us. Yeah. And it just, spirituality just lifts us up and just makes those little things a bit smaller and a bit easier to handle.
I guess, would you say, so being part of Manav Dharam, have you personally and people around you seen that difference? You mentioned that it's being part of it has lifted you higher and made you aware that you don't need to be as part of all the like day-to-day things. You can get away from that through what you're learning at Manav Dharam. Would you say you've seen that difference from when you started to where you are now, I guess?
I wouldn't say you don't get away from it. Sure. You learn to be a part of it, but not let it affect you. Okay. And I mean, please I don't profess to be very far in my journey. I am really early in on my journey, but I am surrounded by so many amazing people and met so many positive people through this organisation that I can see the benefits and, you know, the impact it has on day-to-day life.
I guess, would you say the same, Konpal, in your circumstances?
Yeah, so as Darshna mentioned, I have also started just like few years back.
Sure.
So before that time, I used to be an atheist, I
Okay.
would say.
Okay.
So that might sound surprising to you guys, because a lot of people in India, they believe in religion at
Something,
least.
yeah.
Yeah. But I was brought up, brought up in a family where nobody follows any kind of spiritual practices.
Sure.
So when I got married, I got introduced to basically spirituality.
Mhm.
And I started going to satsangs organized by Manav Dharam along with my husband.
And satsangs are like the spiritual teachings or talks, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then from there, I started realizing that after listening to those satsangs, my mind really become calmed and
Sure.
relaxed. And one thing I found really fascinating was that when I was listening to all these spiritual teachings by the head of Manav Dharam Society, Shri Satpalji Maharaj.
Mhm.
So I found it really unique the way he was explaining the things by relating them to science,
Okay.
which I found like really unique and logical.
Yeah.
So that's where my mind was quite blown, and my perspective about different things really shifted. So yeah, from there then I started like getting to know more about meditation, and
Great.
now I'm just following it as a part of
Daily
my
life.
daily life.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I guess, like, so yeah, we've spoken about spirituality that you've joined recently, part of the organisation, part of Manav Dharam. What advice would you give to someone who's maybe not heard about spirituality or is looking for something? I mean, that's quite an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, I would say that I mean, maybe just start with some small steps.
Mhm.
I don't say that things will change overnight, because a lot of people like in our generation, they're looking for instant results and something like that.
Yeah.
So my advice would be that we all know that we live in such challenging times,
Mhm.
because all the youth everywhere, there's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
And people everywhere, even when you go to school, and from your childhood you are being told that how to deal how do deal with things so that you get success
Mhm.
and you earn money.
Yeah.
But nobody is telling you how to basically get through difficult times or when you face failure.
Yeah.
So I think spirituality bridges that gap.
Great.
It tells you how to be calm when you face adverse
Yeah.
situations.
Mhm.
So
You're coming back to the definition almost, where we're speaking about materiality, but you need that spirituality piece to almost, it's a balancing act, isn't it? It's that
Yeah.
scale. It's almost trying to get in that level playing field. Okay,
Right.
Great. I mean, Darshna, would you add anything to someone new to spirituality or need some advice?
I would say you have to experience it yourself.
Okay.
You know, it's all well and good us speaking about it, but for each person, it has to be a personal experience. My experience is different to couple's experience, which would be different to your experience.
Sure.
It's such a personal thing, and it just holds a mirror up. And it can be a little bit scary sometimes, looking in that mirror, to really face yourself truly, but take that step, be brave. You will be so grateful for it.
And I guess people maybe listening will be thinking, okay, great, I'm in that position. How do I take that first step? I mean, what would you say is great that was great for you guys when you took your first step, or to understand what spirituality is and how things go? I don't know, any advice there?
I mean, I would say just start listening to other people's experiences.
Sure.
And basically listening to spiritual what do you call discourses?
Yeah, discourses, talks, yeah.
Yeah, talks.
Okay.
That's how. And you don't need to really relate to everything what is being told there, but you listen to them and try to build your own perspective around it.
Okay, great. I guess switching it slightly, and because we're talking about the 21st century, how do we think spirituality was seen or taken about 100 years ago, say? How do you think it was back then compared to now? And why is it a lot more challenging, we'd say, in the 21st century, maybe compared to previously? Not that any of us are 100 years old, obviously, but any thoughts on that? Any thoughts on that?
So, yeah, I think, we've touched on it really, haven't we? Our pace of life is incredibly fast now.
Yeah.
We're so much more connected. 100 years ago, to get from one end of the world to the other would take a much longer amount of time than it does now, So getting a message from this side of the world to the other side of the world is so much faster, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I've forgotten the question. Just ask me the question again, because I'm waffling.
How is it different, say, spirituality 100 years ago to now? Why do we think it's a lot more difficult nowadays compared to maybe 100 years ago?
I don't think spirituality itself can change. Spirituality is spirituality.
Yep.
That cannot change throughout time. It's life that has changed, and it's incorporating that into our life now, isn't it?
Just that nature-nurture combination, is it, in terms of how you're nurtured would probably impact that, which...
Oh, absolutely. Our upbringing has a massive impact, doesn't it? So, for example, that someone who has had spirituality in their life from birth may have a very different understanding of the world to someone who is coming across it, at the ripe old age of 50, 60 years old, because they've gone through probably very different life experiences, and their reactions to different experiences in life will very much depend on, those little morals, ethics, values that they've picked up. So,
great. I guess we have touched on it already, but I mean, how did you, for example, Darshna, how did you find out? I know, Konpal, you've said how you found out about Manav Dharam, but Darshna, how did you find out about Manav Dharam?
Through family, really. So we've always had a religious background in family. So I've been brought up knowing about religion, but obviously being brought up in the UK, the thing that was always in my mind is, how can I be of one religion and my friend is of another religion, and how can it be so different? And that was something that always troubled me, for a very long time. And then when spirituality was introduced to us, when we came across Manav Dharam, when we understood some of the discourses that we'd been listening to, it just intrigued me and it resonated with me, and it's a feeling, I can't describe it in words, it's a feeling that I thought, okay, this is something that makes sense. It makes sense not just in my head, it makes sense in my heart and in my soul. It connects every human being in the world. Yeah. It is not linked just to one religion. Yeah. And, it was just brilliant.
And I guess, do you see any sort of reason or rationale behind why someone wouldn't want to be part of spirituality in this sort of 21st century you live in? I don't know, Konpal, any thoughts on that?
I would say there are a couple of points. Basically, one of the thing is that if you need to practice any kind of spiritual activity or mindfulness, you need to be consistent, and that's where a lot of people struggle. Including me. Yeah. So that's one of the point. The second point I would say would be like, it's really difficult to find a really knowledgeable and trustworthy mentor who can really guide you in the way so that you can relate. I mean, I feel that the relationship between a mentor and a mentee should be in such a way that the mentee trusts the mentor's authenticity, which is very difficult. Yeah. So these are like couple of points.
Barriers.
Yeah,
that
that's
we've got.
true.
And how do you think we break down those barriers, I guess?
It has to start with the person. Doesn't it?
Mm.
I can't make you do something that you don't want to do.
Agreed. Yeah.
I can't make my son or my daughter take this step. It has to be a very personal journey. Yeah. And it's when it's the right time for you. And I think it's just being ready to let go of some of these things. There's plenty of people in life, aren't there, who are really happy having a life where it's all about going on holiday, earning money, having a good time, seeing friends, seeing family, and that's enough. And I guess we have to say that's okay. But then there comes a point in people's lives where they think, do we need something deeper?
Yeah.
And when you want to go deeper, spirituality is the way forward. What more is there beyond that materialism?
So are you saying that we shouldn't have that materialistic side, or you think we should still have that, but to what extent?
I think it's there to be enjoyed.
Sure.
I think the world is here. We're here to enjoy it, But alongside it, we've got to think, what is our deeper journey? When all of this doesn't exist, then what else is there out there?
Yep.
It's
quite a scary thought.
It is. It's like a big ocean out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you willing to take that dive?
Yeah.
How deep are you willing to go? And this could go on forever, couldn't it? This talk, we could talk about this for hours. But
And what do you guys think? What do you think faith plays? Does it play a role in spirituality? Having faith?
Yeah, I definitely think so. So before I got to know spirituality, I think I was taking everything on myself, and I used to feel burdened with all the responsibilities and everything. And I was that kind of person who if I do something, I needed like instant results. Now I think I feel like practicing spirituality has made me like more calmer, and then now I appreciate the things as they flow.
Yeah. So you're not aiming. There's not a goal there. I have to get to this.
Yes.
Let's take it as it comes and let's build that journey.
That's
right?
true.
Okay,
Yeah.
Great.
it's acceptance, isn't it?
Yes.
It's accepting whatever happens. If it happens, it happens.
Happens.
If it doesn't, that's okay as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, that's also your destiny or a greater plan or something.
Just taking the mantra, if it's meant to be, it'll happen. Sort of. That
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
Of, yeah. Okay. Interesting. I guess I want to flip the coin, and say, if you didn't have spirituality in your lives and the Manav Dharam, where do you guys think you'd be today? Darshna?
It's funny you say that, actually. I was having this conversation with my husband, and we were reflecting where we were probably 5 years ago. And, there's lots of little bumps in life that come along, aren't there? And as a married couple, we've certainly had some. As, being in a family, you have some.
Yep.
Life throws curveballs at you that you deal with. And 100% we both agreed that if we did not have this grounding factor, spirituality, like you say, couples touched on it, it just keeps you calmer, it gives you the patience, gives you acceptance. We would be in a really different position. I probably wouldn't be here talking to you today.
In what sense do you think you'd be in a different position?
I think I'd have probably struggled to cope with a lot of what had been thrown at me.
Okay.
I might have been a little bit more angrier about life.
Yeah.
I'd probably be complaining more than I do already. So it just gives you, like I said, those day-to-day coping strategies.
Couple?
Yeah.
On your side?
I think I can resonate to what Darshna said. I wouldn't be in a better place. I mean, even nowadays I feel like sometimes I get frustrated at things and get angry about it. But probably like years back I was more kind of a anxious person.
Yeah.
So, and also I realized that spirituality came into my life at the time when I most needed it.
Yeah.
Because COVID time was quite a difficult time for all of us.
Yeah, sure.
Especially in India, during the second wave, there were a lot of bad news coming from everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think, I wouldn't have been in a better place, to be honest.
Great. And you've both spoken about how Manav Dharam has been part of your spiritual journey. But how important would you say it is to you and in your daily life, I guess?
Oh, incredibly important. Incredibly important. I think it's just reminding myself what my goal for that day is.
Sure.
I've still got to go through the day-to-day aspects. I've got to go to work. I've got to, do the housework. You've got to take your kids to this match, that match. But just coming back to what the ultimate goal is just being in touch with your spiritual self. What that means to you, spirituality to me, it's a way of life. Yeah. It is day-to-day living.
And it comes back to the fact of where Konpal spoke about being a good person, right? That's your day-to-day life. I guess how. So we've spoken that obviously it's important and you're living it in a daily life. How are you living it in your daily life? Like, what is there? Is there anything you're doing that maybe the listeners could hear that you guys are doing that are impacting or helping you in that? Like, what are you doing specifically?
I mean, I try to meditate like every day, but I won't say like I'm doing it for long hours, but at least for half an hour.
Yeah.
I just try to meditate.
And that impact is that, and what impact are you seeing from that? Is it like you said, calmness? Or is it
And also I can focus and concentrate better.
Sure.
That's the main sort of difference I see.
Great. Awesome. Darshna, on your end?
Yeah, it's similar really. Is that when you learn to meditate, and by meditate, what I mean is you're taught how to focus inside of yourself. And this is something that we've learned through Manav Dharam, through meeting a spiritual guru. And this is something that I think is incredibly important as part of spirituality. And it just gives that peace and calm. The flip side of this is in my work, I see a lot of people, I work in healthcare, and you see a lot of people who don't cope with day-to-day life. And there's an incredible amount of anxiety out there. And the impact on people's mental health, that's a really massive thing these days. And I'm by far not saying, obviously, there's medical help out there as well. But I think if you step it back and go back to people not having these coping mechanisms, these coping strategies, something as basic as, and I'm calling it basic because it is so simple, as having spirituality in your life would probably give a lot of people the coping mechanism to get through those day-to-day things where they don't have to go on to be troubled by life as much as it clearly is. And it is quite sad, the impact that it does have on a lot of people. So I would always urge everyone just to have a little think about exploring this option.
It's almost like thinking, what do I want out of this life, right? It's saying, do I just want to continue my day-to-day, still continue to get angry or aggressive, whatever it may be, or do I want to maybe change those things? But like you've both said, the first step has to come from the person, right? You need to want to change to be able to see that. So that's great. Thank you both for joining us today on this podcast. It's been great to hear your thoughts on spirituality in the 21st century. And as we've heard today, there's lots of different impacts from spirituality, whether it's calmness in your life, where it's creating coping mechanisms, or also just supporting you and taking you on your journey on a day-to-day basis. So thank you all for listening in today. It's been great to have you here on the Modern Day Spirituality. We'll see you next time. This was the last episode in our current series of the Modern Day Spirituality podcast. A big thank you to all the guests for coming along and sharing their thoughts and insights. And a big thank you to you all for joining us on this journey. We'll be back soon with more podcasts, but in the meantime, please share, comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.